weeks ago, I posted my first YouTube video, and then a few more after that, and they got almost 0 traction.
How did that make you feel?
I mean, honestly, I kind of expected that. The amount of content that gets published on that platform every single second is almost unfathomable. So many videos that are much better than mine just get overlooked. But I have to admit that I did still have some hope that it might accidentally blow up. I did have some fear that it might accidentally blow up.
Yes, that's all well and good, but my question was, how did it make you feel?
It feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulder. I wanted to post original content on YouTube for so fucking long, but I was always too afraid of what might happen when someone who knows me in real life would actually come across it, so I never did. So many scripts written, so many good ideas just scrapped, because I was afraid that they won't be good enough. I was afraid that I won't be good enough. I mean, who wants to see me? What do I have to say that others haven't before me? All me putting myself out there would bring is just ridicule from the people who already know me in real life. You're cringe. You're embarrassing yourself. Who do you think you are? I guess the answer was always that, well, no one's gonna see it. No one really cares that much. We're all too preoccupied with ourselves to think about what other people are doing. And honestly, it feels good. It feels comfortable, because now I know I have a place, a corner on the internet where I can just be myself, where I can express however I want, without an audience, without judgment, without resentment, without shame. You know what? Actually, fuck that mentality. I do wish to be seen. I wish to be heard, to be acknowledged, to be appreciated for who I am and what I can do. We all want that. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. Where I'm from, we're taught from a young age that the worst thing you can do is stand out. Be good. Conform. Don't speak unless you're spoken to first. And most of all, don't bring any extra unnecessary attention to yourself. Because attention brings the evil eye. It brings judgment and resentment and shame. 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 Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that He may exalt you in due time. It makes sense, right? If you don't put yourself out there, if you try to blend in with the environment as much as you possibly can, you're less likely to get hurt. It's a defense mechanism. It has done wonders for our species for the past hundreds of thousands of millennia. It kept us safe. But if there's one thing all defense mechanisms have in common, is that they can only protect you so much before they themselves become destructive. Because you see, this isn't just about wanting to be seen on the internet. This isn't just about wanting to be famous on social media. It's about wishing and longing to be seen in our day-to-day lives, to be acknowledged by the people who know us in real life, the people closest to us. We've become so isolated at this point that we can barely see another human being as a whole person. We just see them as this curated image that they themselves developed on our social feeds. And these exact feeds were curated specifically to retain our attention as long as possible. But in order to have that, they must isolate us from anything else. Because what do you do when you're lonely? What do you do when you have no one left? When you feel so isolated? You run right back to the technology, the tool, the thing that has made us this isolated in the first place. And we're so lonely. So we seek out communities of like-minded people that quickly turn into echo chambers. We try to curate our image in a way that would be as pleasing as possible to the other people that consume us. We follow all the latest trends. We do exactly what the algorithm tells us to do, so that maybe one day we might get noticed. And we're still so fucking lonely.
Welcome, weary traveler, to this little corner of the internet. I'm so glad that somehow you found your way here and that you've decided to stay and join me. Now, let's see what the cards have in store for you today. The Emperor. The Emperor. The Emperor. The Emperor.
When you think about the Emperor, you probably think of power, wealth, authority. You probably think about the rational thought, the masculine. And in tarot, the meanings are quite the same. The Emperor represents power, stability. It represents the evolved masculine, the embodiment of all four kings. He combines the four elements, the mind, body, spirit, and emotions, into one. He can balance them all. He is the blueprint, the guiding light of how we should all embody our masculine, because we all have it. The Emperor is ruled by Aries, the ram, by Mars, the god of war. Aries is usually characterized as a powerful leader, an ambitious soul full of energy and drive. But what a lot of people don't know is that Aries is also the baby of the zodiac. The wheel of the zodiac, much like our wheel of life, has its stages. It starts with birth, all the way to death and everything in between. And just like our life begins with birth, where we come out as babies, so is the wheel of zodiac reborn as a baby, or as Aries. Sure, babies are annoying, they're selfish, loud, they cry a lot, they poop a lot, but they're also unapologetically themselves. They don't care if they fill the whole room with their cries or their laughter. I mean, they can barely perceive themselves. How the hell are they gonna think about how other people perceive them? But that's very much like Aries. And when you think about it, it's very much like the Emperor. And then, well, we grow up. We learn to be quiet, to not cause any trouble, to not be seen, to obey. We learn that in order to survive, we must be what others expect us to be. In order to be loved, we must be what others want us to be. We must put others before us. We must stay in the background. We must serve. Everyone knows that anything other than that is just pure pridefulness. And Lord knows that pride is a sin. You know, as the good Christian girl that I clearly am, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But I don't think God is the one who wants us to conform. I don't think God is the one who wants us to change in order to fit in, to stand in the background, to not be seen. Spoiler alert, I didn't actually grow up or wasn't raised Christian. I actually grew up in quite a heretical household. I mean, I touched my first tarot cards before I could read. My birth chart was probably made at the same time as my birth certificate. I was raised atheist, with a very cool library full of esoteric knowledge, but I was still influenced by the Christian dogma while growing up, because it's so intertwined within our Western society and culture. You see, even when the state was technically separated from the church, the moral compass was still guided through Christianity for hundreds and hundreds of years, whether it be Catholic, Orthodox, or Protestant. Even when we saw a decline in regular church attendance in the past few decades, the moral compass still stayed kind of the same, which makes sense because it is usually learned through parenting. And you know what they say, habit is a metal shirt. It's hard to get rid of. But there's another reason why this Puritanism is still so ingrained in our culture and society. You guessed it. It's capitalism. You see, being humble, being meek, is usually interpreted as someone who is entirely submissive, someone who likes to make themselves invisible to suffer in subordination. And of course, someone who conforms to the norm, to the rules that were laid upon them, so that one day they might reach the pearly gates of heaven. Remember, kids, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. Well, I would like to argue that being humble, being meek, has a totally different interpretation if you look at that quote in its full context. You see, one thing about me, even though I grew up in a very heretic household, I had a weird obsession with the children's version of the Bible when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I think. I found it in a local library, and that's what I read for at least 3 months non-stop, just borrowing it over and over again. I must admit my mother was shocked, but I did learn a few things from it. You see, if you actually look at the whole passage, Peter 5:5-7, a different picture might emerge. It says, "In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to the elders. All of you clothe yourselves with humility towards one another. Because God opposes the proud, but favors the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you." You see, being humble, being meek, is about recognizing one core teaching. It's about recognizing every individual for who they are and acknowledging that no one's better and more important than you, and you're no more important or better than anyone else. It's about not hiding your true self under a facade, a mask that you think people want to see, having the strength and the power to show your true self to others, to allow others people to see you for who you are, is true humbleness. The facade, the external mask, the ego that we all have, is the pridefulness. Showing your true self, not hiding under a facade, a mask that you think people want to see. That's the difference between being humble and being prideful. Instead, this idea of submission, of hiding who you are and trying to be as unnoticeable as possible, was beat into our silly little heads. Because that idea helps create content little slaves. It creates a population of people who are willing to sell themselves to a company, to a corporation that doesn't care about them. This idea of humbleness and not standing up for yourself and who you are is what allows us to create a population of willing indentured servants who are happy just the way they are, because asking for anything more is wrong. And that's just what we are. Happy little Well, I'm here to tell you the good news today. We're all meant to be seen. Maybe not by many. We might not get famous, but we are meant to be seen by at least those around us for who we are, because we're all worth that much, and there's no shame in that. But that requires you to acknowledge yourself as you are, for all your flaws, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to appreciate every aspect of yourself, and to finally integrate them into one. Because that's who you are. That's the person that is meant to be seen. It requires you to surrender the image that you've created for yourself to the universe, to the world that we live in. It requires you to release the anxiety that comes with it, the fear of destroying the mask that you've taken so long to create. It requires you to surrender and just be yourself, who you are, naturally. Listen, I know this might not be what you wish to hear, but I'm afraid that the only way you can truly defeat your fear of being seen is to, well, not defeat it at all, but rather acknowledge it for what it is and accept it for what it is. You're fucking kidding me? I know. But it's how we deal with all fears. We look them straight in the eyes and say, I know you're afraid. I understand why you're afraid. But I need you to trust me. I need you to trust that I can achieve what I wish to achieve, even if we hit some major bumps in the road. I need you to surrender. Que sera, sera, huh? Whatever will be, will be. Yeah, exactly. You need to start putting yourself out there. Can you promise me that? Yes. Even if not everything that you do is perfect. Because you know what? Perfection, it doesn't exist. If you will try to do everything perfectly, you won't do anything at all in the end. And then you'll die. Okay. I know that sounds morbid, but it's true. As far as our human brain is capable of discerning, we only have one life. This life right now. Yeah, sure. I guess. So you need to start trying. Even if you feel like you aren't ready yet. You think you can do that? I mean, I've already spilled my guts to this endless void called the internet anyways. It's not like I can get them back. It's true. It's like that toothpaste analogy, but much more cosmic. I guess all I can do now is to wait and see if the void answers back. And when it does, I'll be right here, listening.